I may have a new game in my top 10 list. I'm going to beat the game first, but the way Xenoblade Chronicles X just keeps getting better and better and blowing me away one moment after the other. At this rate, it will probably end up in my top 10. So I've talked about why the world of Mira, the setting of X, is so imaginative and wonderful to walk around in. I've talked about the brilliance of the scale mechanic and how it completely changes the way you interact with the world and gives you a dynamic sense of scale to everything in this world, encouraging you to explore it all over again, to reach places you couldn't before, or to find shortcuts, or to just roll out in your Transformer. Like an Autobot. I mean, come on, it's sweet! And then on stream, I beat Chapter 9, and then I beat another quest, and Xenoblade X lets you fly. Let me repeat that, because I'm not sure if the awesomeness of those words fully were conveyed with my last sentence. You can fly the freaking mechs in this game. I knew this was a thing, and kind of just expected it to be walking in air. I don't know, maybe I have MMORPG brain rot. But when I played and beat Chapter 9 and beat the quest to unlock Scale Flight, that moment, when I first took off and you could feel the speed, feel the scale slicing through air as I soared towards a sharp patch of rock looming over Primordia that I had my eyes on ever since I first played back in the day in 2015 or 2016. Having the flying theme, Don't Worry, blaring as the rain clouds over New LA gave way to the gorgeous day weather and the sunlight. I had to remind myself that I was on the Wii U, because the art of X is so pure and epic in its execution that you just get lost in this world. Flying is simply a fun mechanic. It's fast, responsive, even if the sending is a bit jank, and just flying over this world that I had put 50 hours into, thoroughly exploring, and now being able to explore the world in a completely new way yet again, and being able to reach places I couldn't before yet again. Xenoblade X is perfectly paced in this regard. It gives you time to explore the world, find its secrets, and have a fulfilling experience. Then it'll introduce a mechanic that's completely revolutionary to how you interact and view the world. It did that with the regular scales at first. Then it gives you more time to readjust to the world with your new mech and your new sense of scale, to reacquaint yourself with all those places you have been to before. You re-explore the world, find even more secrets, find even more data probes you can have access to. Have the scale of it all change for you, and feel like you've made real, genuine, palpable progress in the game. You reach new places, once locked off or highly inaccessible before, possibly swim to the continent, containing Silverloom and Cauldros. Explore those zones, and have your mind blown, yet again, at their majesty and beauty and creativity. I had to make a separate video for just how beautiful of a zone Silverloom is. That's how gorgeous it looks. And then you do Chapter 9, fight a seriously hard boss fight that will challenge you and make sure you are properly leveled and that you know what you are doing. You feel yourself getting better with the game and becoming more acquainted with Mira, but you still have those few areas where you just can't have access to, but you want to explore them. X was advertised as if you can see it, you can get there. So how do we get there? How do we reach those areas, those new lands? Oh, you may have heard rumors and hearsay about how the game lets you fly at some point. Oh, that must be it. It must be the key you're missing. And you beat the boss, beat Chapter 9, do the quest for the flight module, which was infinitely quicker than the one to unlock scales to begin with, I might add. You get this scale, which, by the way, is from the box art, and took me till I got to the quest objective to realize that, by the way, which blew my mind at the time. Because I've loved that box art for years at this point. It was always one of my favorite box arts for games. And you fly, and everything is just turned on its head yet again. Don't Worry is a legit song of the game candidate for me. It's incredible and elicits a perfect sense of freedom and wanderlust that flying invokes in me. The lyrics, the crescendos, the instrumentals, the way the song is paced, the highs and lows, it's the perfect song to constitute a song all about flying and having that sense of freedom. And the song's even called Don't Worry, just Don't Worry, and the subtitle might as well just be Enjoy This. Because that's what it feels like. It's a beautiful song, accompanying even a more beautiful mechanic. All these giant set pieces that once looked large and imposing are now accessible, and I just spent so much time on stream flying to all these places I'd mentally taken note of during my playthrough, like the giant orb in Silverloom, or the ruined Stargate in Oblivia, or the mountain peaks of Noctilum, or Blade Tower, or that giant almost finger of land in Primordia. And I just flew to them, and I explored them. And you want to know the beautiful thing? They weren't empty. They were populated. They had secrets there, items to collect, new mobs to fight, super bosses hiding out, or giant flying enemies. Flying didn't alleviate the threat of the world. It didn't alleviate the gameplay mechanics. It didn't make the world feel like it was just there to take up space, to elongate your playtime from going from point A to point B. Because, like I said before, with Xenoblade X, the world is the content. And that's true even when flying. Because in video games, in my opinion, when flying is done right, it is done right because it's a valuable game mechanic that changes the way you interact with the world, but doesn't take away from the world. It adds to it. It's a functional mechanic that adds a life and beauty and scale and purpose and mechanics to the world. Changes the way you interact with it. Changes the things you can interact with, gives you a whole new slew of things to interact with. That is when flying is done well in a video game. When it's not just an elongated fast travel system, but is a genuine, palpable mechanic in the game that is used to flesh it out and to make it more endearing and engaging and to improve the overall gameplay experience. It is not just there for convenience sake. Convenience can be a factor, but it is not the main one. The content and producing an enjoyable experience is the main purpose of the mechanic. It doesn't make it a slog to fly through because they filled the world or the air with a bunch of enemies. No, they struck a great balance with it, where you feel encouraged to explore and find new things, find new areas, find new bosses, yet have to pay attention for those boss spawns or enemies that could slap you down with the might of Zeus. Sure, Cauldra's a bit annoying in this regard, but it's kind of the one-off. It's just another example of X understanding what it does so well, world exploration and gameplay. It knows its strengths, and instead of trying to spread its hand out too thinly, like that one Lord of the Ring line, like too much butter spread out over too much bread, like too little butter spread out over too much bread, or toast, whatever. It identifies what it's good at, understands what it does so well, the world exploration and the gameplay. It knows its strengths, and instead of trying to spread itself too thin, it reinforces and bolsters the strengths that it absolutely has. The world is engrossing and fun to explore, with secrets and things to find everywhere. It doesn't have nearly the emphasis on narrative and characterization that 1, 2, and 3 did. But what it lacks in those fields, it makes up with imagination and creativity in the controls and the actual gameplay. Because as good of a narrative and as good of a cast of characters as those 3 games have, this game has as equally enjoyable of a world to explore and interact with. It is one of the most engrossing open-world gameplay experiences I've ever played that still hasn't gotten old for me. Is it rough around the edges? Absolutely. Are there issues? Absolutely. Glaring ones at that. I still say the UI is god-awful. The comedy, more often than not, devolves into Tatsuya's food jokes, which gets old after the first time they did it. The cinematography could use some work. Why there isn't an audio balancer so I can adjust the balance between dialogue and music, I do not know. Just doesn't exist. Half the time when a song's playing, I can barely even hear what the characters are saying. And when you're first playing and you're getting a new class, because you get to rank 10 in your class and going to go to a new one, you go from about 7 or 8 abilities down to 2 or 3. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, like I said, the game has issues, where if there's going to be a definitive edition for this game, it has to iron those out. It is absolutely rough around the edges, but the imagination and creativity is on full display, and just booting the game up and walking around, or now flying, I guess, that is an engaging experience that keeps me interested and engrossed with the game for hours to come, until it throws another curveball at me and changes the way I appreciate and view the game from top to bottom. It knows what the player wants to do, and more often than not, the game lets me do what I want to do. I want to pilot the giant robots. Cool, I can do that. I want to use them in combat. Cool, that's a core mechanic, actually. I want to customize them. Cool, I can do that. I can adjust what parts I use, what abilities each mech can use, based on what parts I give it. I can adjust the color scheme. I can name it something unique. I want to give mechs to my party members and customize those as well. Cool, I can do that. I want to turn into a car and transform around the map if I want some speed, because I want to live out my Transformers fantasy. Cool, I can do that. I want to freaking fly. Yeah, you can do that. The game nails that sense of satisfaction, and continuing to play it feels fun. because it will give you something genuinely exciting to acquire, not just some mindless stats, or a different appearance, or a new weapon, or a stat stick. It gives you new gameplay mechanics that change how you interact with the world and how you play the game. It knows its strengths, understands its strengths, and leans into them instead of trying to spread itself too thin, and the game is beautiful for that. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future. And leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on Xenoblade X. Would you love to see the skill mechanic in some way incorporated into the main trilogy? Or going to Xenoblade 4? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. Or do you think these mechanics should stay with Xenoblade X, and you appreciate the movement in the base trilogy more than in this game? I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. I think my ideal Xenoblade game, which is probably one I'll expand on in a future video, would be the gameplay of X with the story of 1, 2, and 3. So stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great day. Hope to see you all again next time. Go play some video games if you can. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.